Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Dojo Live, connecting tech experts like you. Uh, Kim, welcome. Matt, welcome as ever. Thank you for
Yeah.
being here. And today we have a special guest, Mr. Raj Singh. He's CEO and founder of GoMoment.com. Raj, thank you for joining us today. I appreciate it. We're all thankful for you to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to speak with the Dojo Live audience.
Perfect, excellent. We're excited as well, Raj. Okay, great. Raj, to begin with, well, there's several things that we're going to be talking about today, and different views, your participation and Focusrite, and so on and so forth. But today, the topic that you chose for today's talk is rather intriguing, to say the least, and at least is intriguing for me as a user, as a technology user. Cognitive computing and what it means to travel. So why don't we start off, Raj, by having you elaborate a little bit on why you decided to talk about cognitive computing. What do you think it's relevant nowadays in the travel tech industry? Let's start by that. Thank you again.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great question. I think that today we're all inundated with news about artificial intelligence, cognitive computing, and chatbots. And I feel like this news is all around us. It's something that is somewhat akin to what cloud computing was 15 years ago, when we were all trading USB drives with files on there. It was all kind of nebulous, and nobody really understood what it meant. And then it became real very fast, and it changed the way that we work. It changed the way that we live. And that is exactly what we see happening within travel and within business in general, with technologies like cognitive computing, which, of course, there are other terms that are very similar to that, with artificial intelligence, machine learning, chatbots, et cetera, like we discussed.
Excellent.
So why do you think it's going to be particularly influential and important in travel in particular?
Sure.
Amongst other
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually come from a background where my family owns hotels, and I've seen the travel journey of many, many thousands of guests kind of unfold in real time. And at the same time, professionally, I've always focused on user experience and building lots of technology for large companies. And sitting at the nexus of that, what I've been able to see is that the travel journey that all of us take, and we're all travelers, and we have lots of destinations yet to go to. And what I'm seeing is that journey is getting increasingly frazzled and complex and needs more management. And none of us have time, and we need assistance, right? And this is exactly where all of our interactions with technology have trained us to expect service like this. When you run a Google search, if it takes longer than a second, then you're disappointed, right? Whereas if you're spending $300 a night at a hotel, what is your level of expectation for that service? Do you expect to pick up that phone and wait on hold for 20 minutes potentially? Is that something that's going to be acceptable in 2017? This is the big question that I think is on a lot of hoteliers' mind, and of course in travel in general. With weather delays, et cetera, with airlines needing to reroute and manage a customer's expectations. And I think that when we come down to asking what is cognitive computing, I think that helps clarify why this is going to be so important in travel. And cognitive computing is essentially computers making decisions like humans do. And these are not very complicated decisions today. By no means is our computers ready to run government or become Skynet or any of those kinds of things that I think a lot of people fear. But today, I would say that computers are very reliably able to tell you, if you just give a well-trained cognitive computing algorithm, if you give it an image, a computer can tell you very well whether or not there's a bicycle in that image, right? Or whether or not there might be some food in that image. And the question is now, what do we do with that ability that computers now have, which they did not 5 years ago? And that's why I think cognitive computing is so important in travel and then in business in general.
I really like that bridge that you made. I hear myself echoing. Am I echoing for anyone else, or is it just me? If it's just me, I'll deal with it.
I heard it as well.
Oh,
Yeah, I
then
heard
it
it, but
went
I
away,
think it's
right?
gone.
Okay, cool. So my question was, I would really like that bridge that you connected between like how technology has influenced us as people to really, really expect instant gratification, and then how that takes hold in like the real world when it comes to service industry, particularly travel. And so I think that really helped for me make it more tangible.
Right.
And I like that idea too when you think of people might say, well, machines are going to replace our jobs or something of that sort. But I mean, a computer's not going to be able to bring a towel to a guest. You're still going to have a human element there, but you're looking at ideas of alerting those staff members to the needs in a more instant way.
Exactly. And you know, one of the biggest things that cognitive can do today, even though it is an emerging technology by pretty much everybody's definition, is prevent that game of phone tag that you play with, you know, 16 different representatives in a company to finally get to the person who can actually give you the thing that you need. So, you know, for hotel guests, of course, it's oftentimes, you know, something as simple as towels or, you know, getting drinks delivered by the poolside without having to flag somebody down 20 minutes after you had the impulse to actually get a drink. And yeah, it is. I think that technology has really trained us as consumers to expect instant gratification, right? As instant as can be. And yeah, today, you know, when hotel guests are using cognitive technologies, which are actually out there in the wild, I'm sure we'll talk about that in a little bit. With the technology that we brought to market, when you talk to a cognitive platform like Ivy, you're able to say, I need towels sent up to my room, and then boom, in 2 seconds, that request, instead of going to the front desk, who then pass it along to housekeeping, it can go straight to housekeeping, you know, saving 10 minutes of service time that you would have just been waiting for. So again, that's just one small example, and you know, by just having things like classification, visual perception, and speech recognition, those are some, you know, key areas of cognitive computing. We're now able to take that and deliver service either instantly or significantly faster for travelers of all kinds. And you know, my company GoMoment has started with a hotel space.
And I like the idea too that then your employees, your human employees, actually become more of a specialist, because then you're looking at the idea of housekeeping now needs to understand an element of technology. They need to be able to handle platforms and response and log in, log out, whatever. And then you're left also, I think, to the human element to be more focused on the true, real, challenging problems that a guest might face, and leave the small things to a machine.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's a great point, and I think that we've seen this transition before, where you know, technology is increasingly handling a lot of the kind of lower value tasks, like, you know, categorizing a problem and then dispatching it to the right person, and then what that allows the human staff to do is move up in the value chain. So, you know, it's actually, I believe Sal Khan of Khan Academy, he actually, you know, when they democratized a lot of educational materials, made them available for free to you know, millions of people online, that was a big question that I remember, you know, his answer was phenomenal on that, which is, he said that, look, we're now giving information away for free. You no longer even need a teacher, right? You can have all of this information here. You watch a video, you do an exercise, you learn the material. What does that mean for a teacher? Well, now that teacher has to move up in the value chain and create more value than just reading a textbook to you. Mm-hmm. So similarly, in the travel industry, this means that every human employee, every human staff member involved in the travel journey now has to think, well, what more can I do to serve this guest, and how can I make their journey even better? Which is a question that cognitive computing is now opening up for everybody involved.
So can you give us examples of what that would look like with your product and maybe other future products or you know, future features or something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll just kind of give you guys a little bit of background, and for the audience, just to walk them through, you know, what Ivy is. So Ivy is the world's first smart texting platform for hotels, created by GoMoment. And essentially, while you're on your journey, Ivy is always at your service. So think of her as a co-pilot in your pocket, all throughout your journey, always scouting for the next thing that you may need, and then presenting, for example, dinner plans and restaurant reservations, anything else like that that you might need on your journey. Ivy will have ready, and you can always ask for it. So the way it works is that you walk into a hotel, just to go up to the front desk to pick up your keys when you're checking in, and the front desk will inform you that we've got Ivy at this hotel. Ivy can take care of anything that you need at any time from anywhere. She's going to send you a text message when you get up to your room. And if you'd like to request anything from the hotel, including whether it's staff or information about the Wi-Fi, just reply in your own words and it'll be taken care of. So the front desk will ensure your phone number is in their system. They don't have to look at a second system or anything else like that. And then by the time that you get up to your room with your keys, you'll get a message from Ivy saying, hey, Matt, welcome to our hotel. I want to make sure you have a great stay. If you need anything at all, like the Wi-Fi password, drinks by the poolside, or towel sent up to your room, reply here in your own words, and I'll take care of it, right? So there was no app to download, no URLs to remember, nothing to scan. You, as a traveler, it was just seamless. You got a welcome message, and if you reply to that and say, what's the Wi-Fi password? Boom, 2 seconds, you get an answer, because no human had to look at that. That's a very low-value task, and it's a question that millions of people have asked today at hotels around the country. And there's no reason to wait, 5 minutes on hold and listen to 3 pre-recorded things saying that this call is going to be recorded and monitored for quality purposes when all you need is a 5-second answer. So, that kind of thing is completely automated.
And I think I like that a lot. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Matt.
Or worse, when they give you the wrong password. And then
exactly.
And then you go back and you say, oh, that was yesterday's password. Okay.
But I like the satisfaction that it's increasing your guest satisfaction, but I imagine it also increases the employee satisfaction, because as a front desk clerk or something, you're like, oh my God, how many times do I have to answer this question today? Or just like, oh, it's a waste of my time, or have so many other things to do. And even though, you always have to keep that smile, like inside you're like, and so I think that's really, really cool. Like, it's not just about your guests, it's about your family, your employees as well. And family and employee satisfaction is something that Nearsoft is really big on. And so I think that's a really cool element that Ivy can bring to the hotel industry.
Absolutely. Actually, what we've seen with Ivy at hotels around the country is, not, as you said, of course, the guest satisfaction goes up right away. You're getting instant service. So if you, let's say, said drinks by the poolside, Ivy can recognize that as a poolside drink request, send it directly to the poolside restaurant instead of having to play phone tag or you having to flag anybody down. And instead of what used to take 20 to 30 minutes to have a drink order fulfilled, you can now get your drinks in record time in 3 minutes, because there was no, there were no hurdles to kind of overcome. And yeah, the staff are, are using this very simple web portal. They're getting the request, and if they're not looking at the web portal, the staff can actually get, desktop notifications, text message notifications, or even email. So, we assume that nobody's looking at, this system, but the system has to work perfectly every time. So yeah, you're absolutely right. And, one thing that we've seen with hotel staff is that they're busy, right? Like if you have 4 people in front of you waiting to check in and they're all looking at you, with the daggers that somebody can only, send after, a 12-hour flight, and they're exhausted, they're waiting in line. And then you have a call come in and you have to take that call, because that call could be a new booking, it could be, more revenue, which you're tasked to fulfill. And then a guest asks a question that you've answered 200 times that day. I mean, it's just, it can get a lot. So what's great about Ivy is that when a guest makes a request, Ivy will actually monitor each request. Again, this is the kind of cognitive, portion of the business there, where Ivy makes sure that everybody gets a response within 10 minutes. And if they don't respond in 10 minutes, Ivy can escalate it to the next person in line, or even their manager, so that, any kind of a guest issue that happens is caught in real time on the property before it actually escalates into a negative TripAdvisor review, which will hurt the hotel's revenue. Right. So similarly, through any kind of travel journey, I think that there are so many opportunities. If you catch the issue in real time, then you can address it in real time before it becomes a much larger problem.
So will Ivy keep track of the answer as well? So I asked for the password, and it's always the same password. Will at some point go, you know what, I'm not even going to ask the human. I'm just going to
Yeah, exactly. So part of the reason the cognitive is so important in travel and in business in general is because Ivy, for example, gets smarter with every interaction with the guest and with every interaction with staff. So absolutely, on a quarterly basis, we look at a snapshot of all the conversations that are happening within a client's guest population. And then we'll look at training candidates, which can be, escalated. So Ivy will not answer anything unless she's at least 98% confident, right? So it's a very high bar. We want to make sure that, the answer is there, and Ivy knows what she doesn't know. So she'll step out of the way and let a front desk person or a, human expert handle that issue and then kind of learn from that interaction. So absolutely. If we see an issue come up over and over, it's a great automation candidate, and by automating those things, again, we allow the human staff to do more productive things, whatever that may be.
I mentioned there's other analytics that you can also extract from those interactions, like most, this kinds of requests happen most between 9 and 10, versus other kinds of requests happen more between 7 and 5. Okay.
Exactly. So actually, one. I think
there's a delay or something.
I think a little bit. Just to Matt's point, actually, I was going to say one of our hotels actually was able to discover in real time that the Wi-Fi repeater that they had on the 22nd floor was out of commission because they got 6 complaints about the Wi-Fi, all from guests in room numbers that started with the 22nd floor. And again, previously, if you got 6 different phone calls over 30 minutes, nobody has the time to stitch that data together. Right. But Ivy does that for you, and through the analytics, they were able to notice that there was a kind of system-wide problem at this floor, get it addressed, and prevent more guests from that floor being upset at the Wi-Fi not working.
I'm sure it was at that hotel.
On the 22nd floor, right?
On the 22nd floor.
There you go.
Matt, Kim, and Raj, just a quick, let me just step in real quick. I'd like to remind the audience that you can send us your questions by Twitter. You simply go to Twitter, and here is our handle, Dojo Live, @DojoLive. Send us your questions, and I'll read them back to Raj, and then he'll be able to respond. And okay, I have a question of my own, if I may. And this is more about the concept of cognitive computing and artificial intelligence in the travel sector, in the travel, hospitality, and tourism. Essentially, Raj, this is the ultimate goal of cognitive computing. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the ultimate goal, cognitive computing and artificial intelligence, is solving problems without human assistance. And I understand that you mentioned that Ivy has will not respond if there's not. She's not 90-something% sure about the information that she needs to provide. But still, my question is, given the fact that hospitality, tourism, they're all about the experiences, human experiences, and isn't there a breaking point where something needs to be, let's say, how can we get around past that problem or the paradox of the human experience versus solving problems without human interaction or assistance? So it's kind of a strange scenario for me, but it's a very interesting one. Is there anything you can tell us about this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think you raised 2 very, very good points that I think are common beliefs in the industry. Mm-hmm. And from our learning, I think that I can share some of those insights. So number one, you said that the goal of cognitive and artificial intelligence is to ultimately replace human labor, necessities, etc. I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. I think that is the kind of picture that's painted about it. But for example, right? So in the late 90s, Garry Kasparov was defeated by IBM's DeepMind computer in chess, right? And chess was one of those things that we thought, okay, well, if a computer can beat us at chess, that means the best chess player in the world today should be a computer. But it's not. The best chess player in the world today is a hybrid of human expertise and machine intelligence, right? So the thing is, I believe that the goal of cognitive and artificial intelligence, based on all the experience we've had over the years, developing, training, deploying these systems, is that it's actually here to augment our intelligence. Because as I'd said, cognitive computing is computers making decisions like humans do, but those decisions that the computers are able to make are way less complex than the kind of decisions that humans are able to make. So in an ideal world, I think that the end goal of a system like this is to serve humanity by actually augmenting and extending our intelligence. Because again, we are intelligent beings, but we're also drowning in data. And that's where cognitive kind of comes into place. And, I think that it helps us make sense of the world. It helps us keep abreast and really expand our awareness into all these different realms. So for example, if you're a hotelier, you have 700 rooms all occupied on your property, there is no way that you can have awareness of every single guest's experience. But using something like Ivy, you can actually individually, personally touch every single one of them with your message, just like you would welcome them, or you would welcome a friend or a family member to your hotel. You can send that over text, and then if they have a problem, Ivy will alert you in real time, right? Mm-hmm. So you're expanding your awareness. If they're having a good time, Ivy will invite them down to the restaurant, to the chef's table, to have a brilliant meal. So again, that's the beauty of these cognitive systems, and I do think that this is part of the reason I was saying that this is not, it's not Skynet, it's not here to replace us. I think it's here to augment us, at least for the foreseeable future. And then, what happens in 50 or 100 years, I think is probably beyond the scope of our conversation, but, definitely a fascinating topic. So, cool. Yeah, any thoughts on that?
I like it. I like the idea of actually allowing you to be more human, like we addressed, like your employees or whoever might be using this to free you up of the things that just drag you down and allow you to focus on what makes you happy and what's truly important to you or to your guests.
Exactly.
Well, and drag the guests down as well. I mean, that when Carlos was asking about the experience, I thought there's plenty of experiences that I would rather, not do it with a human and deal with it. So.
And Matt, that is the perfect the link to the other point that Carlos had brought up, which is that again, coming from seeing the hospitality industry from the inside out, talking with thousands of hoteliers as I have over the last few years, and thinking about this technology that at 4 years ago when we were first developing this, everybody said no, we need that face-to-face communication with the guest for everything, or else we're not doing our job at a hotel. Today, it's a very different world. Now, at this point, I think that, Matt, what you said represents a lot of what guests are saying. And by the way, we've got millions of data points, millions of guests now have access to Ivy around the country. And what we see is the guest chooses the communication method. So if they want to text you and ask you what the Wi-Fi password is, the best, the goal of hospitality is not necessarily to be face-to-face with someone. It is to get them what they need as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And I think especially in an environment like a honeymoon or something, you really don't want to be seeing other people, or you're like, oh crap, the toilet's clogged, it's backed up, and then you call the front desk and hi, the toilet, this and that, and then she gets on the radio, Carlos, the guest in 216 needs a plunger. Right? So
No, well, not just that. And by the way, I can give you probably hundreds of examples that we've seen of this stuff. But just two that come to mind to extend what you just said, Kim, is number one, guests don't like to confront people, right? Like if you're a guest, you didn't have like a abysmal experience, but you also didn't have a great experience. Let's say the front desk person made you wait for 20 minutes while they're finishing up a personal call, right, at the front desk when you checked in, and you get up to the room and like your bed's not made right? It's okay, but it's not made right. It's not something you're going to complain about over phone. You're not going to confront somebody face-to-face. And phone still feels confrontational, but guess what? People are so unfiltered over text. It's beautiful. So, we've had people tell us, look, I have 2 kids sleeping right next to me. Do not disturb. Do not do anything, but I want room service because my wife and I are hungry. And, here's my order. Leave it outside and text me back when it's done. I don't want it, everything's on silent. I don't want these kids waking up, and my wife and I are just trying to be quiet and enjoy a meal. Like, that's happened so many times on Ivy. We've also had guests that were sick and they couldn't talk, and they said, can you please send me up some chicken soup and ginger ale? And they got it in 6 minutes, and the guest responded and said, oh my God, this is the best service I've ever gotten at a hotel. Thank you so much for taking care of me. I can't even talk right now, and you guys still heard me, right? That's the beauty of being able to communicate digitally. And again, today it's text message. Tomorrow it might be a different module. It might be WhatsApp. It might be Facebook Messenger. Could be anything. And so we built Ivy to be agnostic of the exact channel. So we tested native apps. We tested web pages, phone lines, and everything else. Every possible way you can communicate with a traveler, we tested. And it was a huge landslide in the favor of text messaging. So we went with that. And tomorrow when, let's say in 2017, 18, as customer preferences change and they want to go to a different place, Ivy will be the best vehicle for hotels to keep up with that and provide that service that we've trained Ivy on in whatever channel that the customer prefers.
So you've showed us some examples of where Ivy has gotten it so right. Have there been any moments where Ivy has gotten it so wrong? And what did you learn from those moments?
There definitely have been moments like that. Luckily, the hotels I mentioned that my family owns, we actually tested and battle hardened Ivy at those hotels. So, we were able to have some staff on the ground, let everybody know, hey, this is a beta program. We're testing the system. So luckily we got most of the kinks out of the way there. There have been, certain situations where Ivy's really not sure how to handle it. But I mean, that's the beauty of how we've designed it, is that when Ivy doesn't know, she's very quick to step back and then send it over to a front desk person and then watch how they do it. So again, if Ivy does make an error, it's usually in the analytics side or some other side that's not guest facing. And that's the way that we've designed the system, is to really insulate the guest experience and that journey from any kind of errors that a machine could make. And this is part of the reason that you can't just take an AI technology like IBM Watson, which actually Ivy is powered by. You can't just take an AI technology and connect it directly with the hotel guest, because those systems are not always 100% perfect. You need an operational layer in the middle that can actually understand how to operationalize that technology.
So how do you distribute the app? Is it you go directly and knock on every door, or are you just curious about how you get these things in the hands of hotels?
Sure. We actually have, at this point we've got hundreds of customers, including individual, independent boutique hotels, ownership groups, property management groups, as well as public companies that are brands that we've signed deals with to be able to distribute within their networks. So, what we see is that the demand at this point is very strong. One of the key markets for us is Vegas, where we've been able to actually automate the entire process of being able to check out from your hotel room. So, sometimes there's a 30-minute line downstairs, and, within 3 months of one of our deployments there, we were able to help almost 15,000 guests skip the checkout line completely, check out by text with Ivy, and, annualized, I think we'll be saving these guests about 20,000 hours of waiting time at one Vegas casino. So that's just one, application on the Ivy platform. But in terms of distribution, it's all done, through these networks of ownership groups, brands, and management groups at this point.
I was asking because a couple of our clients are in that space. SkyTouch, right, which was part of Choice Hotels, is one, and Switchlight is the other. That there might be some opportunity there, and I was just wondering if, I don't know, if those are the kind of people you talk to, or you talk to hotels, or what. But
yeah, actually, so as part of our deployments with hotels, we do speak with technology companies, because we integrate with most leading technology vendors in the space. So SkyTouch, actually, I just spoke with them last week. We've got another touch point in a couple of weeks. GoMoment is a qualified vendor with Choice Hotels, and we're approved for use at over 5,000 hotels with Choice,
okay,
as well as so being able to integrate with SkyTouch, which powers a lot of the technology behind the scenes there, is absolutely key. So I'm sure we know some of the same people out there.
So we probably end up being the guys that on the other side of that integration. So
there you go.
Small world.
Small world.
Yeah.
Raj, I understand that you're gonna have to be leaving soon, unfortunately. So we need to start wrapping up today's session. But before we go, I'd like to just ask you something real quick, and this has to do with the sector spotlight at Focusrite, which is the rise of the machines. Okay,
Okay.
and it's one simple question, Raj: why now?
It's a great question. I think the technology has been advancing at a rate that I think had previously outpaced how quickly it could be adopted by business. Mm-hmm. I think today we're at a point where we've made all of these cutting edge technologies like artificial intelligence and machine learning so easily adoptable by a business that, you know, we're just tipping into that. We just hit that tipping point of, okay, I'm a business, I'm a hotel, for example. I need to adopt an artificially intelligent, you know, largely automated customer service solution. I would say 5 years ago, you were looking at spending 6 figures and probably taking 3 to 4 months minimum to deploy something that was kind of okay. Today, you can sign up for Ivy, we'll deploy within 1 day, and the cost is in the thousands, not in the hundreds of thousands, right? So I mean, it's just I think that just like you know, broadband was not, you know, available to everybody. You know, 20 years ago, I think that, you know, right now these technologies have just reached are within grasp for most businesses today, many more than actually realize that it's available to them. So I think it's just these technologies have just become democratized enough to really make a huge impact for billions of people.
Excellent. Well, okay. Thank you so much.
Not to take away from the work that you are doing and other companies are doing to make them more deployable, if you will. So you said you guys are powered by Watson, but if you said, oh, go do this thing directly with Watson, it's like, good luck, I'll run away. Done all the hard work of,
right.
You know, that layer in between,
right.
The raw power of Watson, great, but how does it get to me? And there are other companies working in that space, and I think that's part of the why now. There's an acceleration or a tipping point, as you call that, of people figuring out that, oh, we can use this technology and then apply it here and apply it there.
Absolutely. And, you know, again, I think that this same trend has been recognized by a lot of leading thinkers in the space. Actually, there's this great book by Micah Solomon called The Heart of Hospitality. Mm-hmm. And if you flip to page 188 in here, actually, there's a chapter called The Future is Now. And it's all about how Ivy uses IBM Watson to actually bring this technology to hotels, to, you know, millions of guests. And again, Ivy's available to about 10 million guests annually today. You know, within the next few years, we hope to bring this to many, many millions more. And again, that, I think, Carlos, like, to address your question, this is exactly it. But, you know, 5 years ago, we couldn't have done this. It was just impossible. No business could have done it. And, you know, I just think that these technologies have become so available now that a good solution that can operationalize something that used to be nebulous and kind of in the cloud, you know, you get that middle layer to operationalize it, and then your business is right here. You just plug right in, and you're off to the races.
Cool, excellent. Kim?
I was wondering how long it took you to develop, and your team to develop Ivy, and then I want to know why Ivy? Why the name Ivy?
I'll start with the easy one. So the name Ivy, you know, we wanted to create a brand that stood for nurturing and caring and just, you know, being your scout on your travel journey. And there's something about Ivy that just says, try me, right? So that's why we went with Ivy, because it's short, sweet, and just really, you know, takes care of millions of people. So that's why we went with that. As far as the development process, you know, it's been a kind of flexible thing, but I'd say about 12 to 18 months is really what it took us to not just, you know, do the engineering, which is, relatively speaking, the easy part, at least, you know, given the fact that we're very well versed with building technology. The really hard part was to operationalize it in a way that, you know, you might have a 20-year-old, you know, person in housekeeping who's doing college part-time, and then they're, you know, working at the hotel part-time, and they may not be the most savvy person, or they're a millennial and, you know, they're super tech savvy. But either way, you cannot assume any kind of existing knowledge when you're distributing the system to hotel staff and hotel guests. It's a very diverse population of guests. very diverse population of staff, all using different kinds of devices and different preferences. So operationalizing it in a way where the communication is seamless every single time was the really hard part. And that's I think what our edge in the industry really is.
So I like that idea of having to merge expertise, not just in software development, but in psychology and all sorts of elements.
Right.
So really cool. And I like the name Ivy. I like it a lot. I like how it's
Thank
like
you.
an older traditional name, but now it's like trendy for people to be naming their daughters older
Right.
names, so it can cross and connect to both worlds. It's smart.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Kim. And it seems that we're approaching the final minutes of today's session. We don't want to hold you any longer, Raj, because like I said, you know you're pressed for time. So well, the only thing for me left for me to do is just simply thank you for having agreed to be here with us today. And we look forward to seeing you in Focusrite. And if there's any final words of wisdom you would like to leave our audience with, now is the time, please.
Thank you, Carlos. It's been a pleasure to chat with you guys. I think your team's doing some really cool stuff out in the marketplace, and we're really happy that we get to actually meet at Focusrite. For anybody attending that show, actually, it's in downtown LA, November 15th through 17th. On the 17th, I'll be keynoting there, so I'd love to meet with anybody else who's attending out there. And I encourage people to think about the fact that as you're solving business problems, try to think about what will 80% or more of my customers benefit from, right? So immediately, a lot of things like building an app and trying to force people to download it when they don't really want to download it and they're busy and they're on the road. I think those kinds of things, become a little bit more, I think it's a good litmus test to have. How do I benefit the most number of people with the solution? And again, I really appreciate the opportunity to speak, and anybody curious to learn more can go to GoMoment.com. Our Twitter handle is @GoMoment, and we'll look forward to continuing the conversation.
Cool, excellent. Would you mind repeating the Twitter handle?
Sure, it's @GoMoment.
@GoMoment.
Just the name.
Oh. Okay, excellent. Okay, here you go. All right. Well, Raj, that's it for me. And again, thank you so much. We're going to be in touch, connecting experts like you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Thanks.
Congratulations.
Take care, guys.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thanks so much.